"2010 saw technological innovations like the launch of Instagram and Uber, while The Social Network questioned why these innovations were born.
He feels like he doesn't fit in college, and he creates an environment where he does fit in.
With Canada on the world stage during Vancouver's 2010 Olympiad, Hollywood created a rare, in-depth profile of Toronto in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. But it was the globe-trotting film Incendie which brought the country an Oscar nomination.
It's a huge honor. It's like a kid's dream.
With the box office dominated by franchises, children's book adaptations, and animation, Christopher Nolan's Inception became the lone original adult hit.
It's very rare that films come like this out of the Hollywood studio system, so we're looking forward to seeing people's reactions.
I think 2010 was a confounding year. We had films from some of the biggest filmmakers, Martin Scorsese, David Fincher, Christopher Nolan, and yet it's the smaller films I think really stole the spotlight.
A big trend you saw in 2010 was a lot of directors who were considered indie or emerging in the 90s were now minted as auteurs and kind of big names in Hollywood.
In 2010, we get a film that no one wanted. When they first announced that they were going to make a movie about Facebook, it was mocked online. No one wanted any movie about Facebook because we were all addicted to Facebook. We were on Facebook all the time. Then the movie came out, David Fincher, penned by Aaron Sorkin, and we all realized that we actually really needed a movie about Facebook.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
David Fincher, you know, he makes movies for a very smart audience, and Aaron writes movies for a very smart audience, so we felt very privileged. I think all the actors did felt very privileged to be able to play these characters out.
I think something that has to be remembered when you're talking about The Social Network is that a movie about the internet was pretty unheard of at the time. As much as The Social Network is about business and law, it's also deeply focused on the internet and a website. There were not these tech bro TV shows, everything about the development of various websites and apps. That was totally new, so it felt unlikely and fresh. I think a lot of people went to the movie just wanting to know if it would work.
I was surprised that they had that much perspective on what was going to happen, what might go wrong in this world where people are living virtually, where you're performing friendship. This movie was pretty early on in all of that, and yet it absolutely knew what the terrors and the dangers and the pleasures and the seductions were of this kind of life.
It touches on an almost Wild West moment in the internet, when there was so much capital and so much potential in good ideas. And that really connects with people. I think it is a hope that we all have, that I will have this idea, I will have this thought, and just the thought alone is enough to compel me into importance.
One of the things that makes this movie so poignant is how you get a character like Justin Timberlake saying to him, you know what's not sexy, $1 million. You know what is sexy, $1 billion. Like just building him up and building him up. You can take this meeting in your bathrobe, he says.
You're gonna walk in there and say you overslept and didn't have time to get dressed. They're gonna pitch you. Case Equity is going to pitch you. They're gonna beg you to take their money.
And he has his little I'm CEO bitch business cards, and you just know that he's just gonna tuck them inside his drawer and never look at them again. That undermining of your main character, it's so brilliant because he's your hero, he's your anti-hero, he's not you, he's you, and it's all in there. It's such brilliant layered writing and acting.
When The King's Speech came out, it won the People's Choice Award at TIFF, which is usually a pretty good indicator something is going to do well at the Oscars. And boy, oh boy, did The King's Speech do well. We are looking at 12 Oscar nominations, plus taking home a bunch of the big prizes.
Had this movie not won Best Picture, it might have not become such an easy punchline. I think because it was so successful, it's very tempting to just kind of think that that's all it is.
My hot take on The King's Speech is that I actually kind of like it. I know that it's become fashionable to
loathe Tom Hooper for what he's done to Les Miserables and Cats, and people aren't wrong about that. But there is something that grabs me about The King's Speech.
My husband is, well, he's required to speak publicly.
Perhaps he should change jobs.
He can't.
Indentured servitude.
Something of that nature, yes.
You've got a tremendous effort coming from the actors. You've got a genuinely great Colin Firth performance. You can take issue with how realistic the stammering is, but he manages to root it in character, in the insecurity of George. And that establishes a sympathy and empathy from the beginning that I don't know that Hooper understands, but the actors do.
Do you know any jokes?
Timing isn't my strong suit.
Hey, look, great chemistry. Colin Firth, Geoffrey Rush. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. So, yeah, it's a good movie.
In some ways, it's nice that The King's Speech won Best Picture. This was a year where my dad, probably for the first time, had actually seen the movie that won. And I remember him cheering a little bit and thinking, you know what? That's one for Team Dad.
What you were seeing in Canada around 2010 was a real amassing of talent in Quebec. A lot of directors had had big hits and were building upon them and getting bigger and bigger in the international scene.
Incendie is the first of 3 films that would go to the Oscars to compete for Best Foreign Language Film in 3 consecutive years in a row. So we have Incendie in 2010, we have Monsieur Lazare in 2011, and we'll have War Witch by Kim Nguyen in 2012. And just based on these 3 films alone, all of a sudden Hollywood is being like, wow, there is huge talent coming out of Quebec. The film Incendie is based on a play by Lebanese-Canadian director Wajid Mawad. And what he and Denis Villeneuve are really trying to say is they're trying to talk about the universality of war. They're trying to talk about the horrors and how they're no longer restricted to just the Middle East, that they travel, that they come home.
A lot of people fell in love with this film. Because of this film, Denis Villeneuve went on to make Prisoners, ultimately Arrival, and the mega hit Dune. And through every stage of his career, his talents as a filmmaker were never in question. He has a way of crafting both the story in terms of the script, but also visually, he says so much. There's a great scene where she's in a bus that has just been attacked. And because of her cross, which she had to hide to get on the bus, it's now going to save her life getting off the bus.
Messiah! Messiah!
I think what Denis does so beautifully in this movie is kind of cutting through that emotional tension and showing a mother is actually a human being as well, and a mother is very multifaceted and has her own life that your kids have no idea about.
It's a film that's oddly hopeful despite all of its tragedy.
2010 really had this boom in films about sanity and dreams and the subconscious.
I think I grew into this film. It took me 10 years to write it, and my films got bigger in the meantime, and that gave me the confidence to do this.
Christopher Nolan is behind some heady stuff, and he's not afraid to approach some metaphysical aspects within his film and blend it with that film noir style.
The screenplay was dense, it was complex. I mean, I got conceptually what Chris was trying to do, but it really took all of us to have that one-on-one interaction with him to sort of tap into his mind and unlock a lot of the secrets of what Inception was.
Essentially, the premise of the film is the deeper inside a dream you go, the slower in reality outside of the dream these things happen, and you can go into multiple stacks of dreams and stack that dream so that these levels of dreams even elongate further and further the amount of time that's happening in real waking time.
Hey, look at me. You're okay. You're okay. Hey.
Why wouldn't I wake up?
Because there was still some time on the clock. You can't wake up from within the dream unless you die.
And in a sense, Christopher Nolan is incepting into his audience that concept, that conceit, and that's what a director or a storyteller does. You know, when you go see a movie, they talk about, you know, the dream flow, of being involved into a movie, and time seems to slow down.
We were talking for like at least an hour.
In a dream, your mind functions more quickly, therefore, time seems to feel more slow.
5 minutes in the real world gives you an hour in the dream.
Why don't you see what you can get up to in 5 minutes?
You know, we've all had dreams where we thought we were asleep for a minute, but we've had elaborate, sweeping dreams in those very small spans of time. And I think there's something that really connects with people about that.
Inception is, I think, one of the most bonkers movies that if you were to read the script on its own without knowing what the movie was, you could just think, this isn't gonna work. Like this, nobody could ever actually make this movie. And the fact that you're able to deliver that with this incredibly big world of, you know, rotating hallways and mirrors that, you know, smash and go on, and sitting in a cafe in Paris and everything exploding behind you. It's a movie that shouldn't work and somehow does, and because it does, it just makes it that much better.
Leonardo DiCaprio has two kind of weird, dreamy movies this year. The other is Shutter Island.
Shutter Island would repair Leonardo DiCaprio with Martin Scorsese for the 4th time in his career. He'd been in films previously like The Aviator and The Departed, movies that really garnered a lot of attention, especially for Leo's performance as he was really entering into his prestige phase.
The Departed was something where we began to realize where there was something more that we could push with each other. And we saw the opportunity here in this character and this story for that. We didn't know to the extent it would be, but that's what happened.
Every moment of this film is, for the love of God, just give Leo his Oscar already. It is ridiculous. He is crying, he is screaming, he is yelling, he's shooting Nazis. What else does he need?
The moments when it makes the most sense, the moments where it is giving you the cleanest narrative, are the moments that you as a viewer are in danger of misunderstanding it.
You're constantly unsure of what is the truth. You kind of see where the movie might be going early on, like you're like, okay, clearly he's got more of a connection to this Shutter Island than he initially thinks. But because of how the movie is structured and how believable the performance of Leonardo DiCaprio is, you kind of wonder constantly if it really is going there. Like you're like, is he really crazy? Or has he figured out this scandal of the century?
Well, it seems to me Rachel Solando is suggesting that you have a 67th patient, Doctor.
But I'm afraid we don't. This is ridiculous. What are they doing here?
We're doing our goddamn job.
It really taps into a unique fear that was present in the cinema of 2010, which is that maybe I'm the villain. Maybe my reality isn't the reality, and all that's left to look at is you.
Black Swan is a film about the competition between two ballerinas for the lead role in Swan Lake. There's sort of a Svengali director that is pitting them against each other, and it starts to really make the ballerinas crack, especially the one played by Natalie Portman. At the time of Black Swan, Darren Aronofsky had started to be known for these films that were full of his artistic technique, but were also really showcases for a single actor. This film was, of course, coming off The Wrestler, which was huge for Mickey Rourke, and this was a great showcase for Natalie Portman and all her acting skill.
One thing I really love about Black Swan is that he's taking this really high art and giving it a really horrific, gory, sinister edge. It's kind of the opposite with what he did with The Wrestler, where it's, you know, arguably the lowest performance art form that he lent a lot of drama into.
I think what's really true in the film is the pressure to be a dancer. I used to dance myself, so it's understandable to see Nina going through the pressures of trying to stay a certain shape and trying to perfect her craft.
The whole world of the discipline of ballet, I think, really helped me get into that mindset because it's just such intense, extreme focus, so much concentration, and willingness to experience great pain to perform.
She's trying to be what everyone else wants her to be. And all these people pulling at Nina, trying to get what they want from her, it does nothing for her deteriorating mental health.
Just want to be perfect.
You what?
want to be perfect.
One of the things that it does so successfully as a psychological horror is it makes the audience feel like you're also kind of losing your mind. There are so many kind of subtle camera tricks and little bits of effects that he plays with, whether it's something in the background is kind of moving, not enough that you immediately know what's happening, but just enough so you're like, something's wrong. And while she's spinning out of control, you feel like you're spinning out of control too. It's just such an immersive film.
One theme that keeps coming up in the independent cinema of 2010 is extremely bad parents, kids who are essentially left on their own to raise their family. And this opens up an interesting door in independent cinema, especially to two very specific cultures, and both the joy of them and some of the terror.
Taika Waititi has built up a reputation for working really well with child actors. And the first feature film where we see him doing that is 2010's Boy. Boy is an extension of the Waititi flagship film, Two Cars, One Night. This was a short from 2004 that saw Waititi nominated for an Oscar award.
Ultimately, Boy is a film about the power of imagination, and it's about the stories that children tell themselves when they don't have anything factual to actually lead them. He is in love with the idea of his father, who is an absentee father in and out of jail, by all accounts is a complete dirtbag. But because he doesn't actually know him, he makes up these grandiose visions of who his dad is, who is a hero, who is Michael Jackson, who is all these things that he wants him to be.
Your dad's not overseas. He's in jail for robbery.
Shut up, Kingy. You don't know.
Yes, he's in the same cell block as my dad.
Not anymore. He escaped.
How?
He dug a hole underneath the fence.
With what?
A spoon.
It really is everything that he's always concerned with in all of his movies. It's about sons with absent fathers. It's about cultures that are on the brink of disappearing into something else. It's about discovering your own identity by being as noisy and goofy as you possibly can be. It's about discovering that you're always going to be disappointed by the people you're closest to. All of these things are in every movie he's ever made. What Boy does is make it all sweet again, and by letting the audience remember what it was like to not know, to not be disappointed yet, to have your innocence and not know what to do with it, that's the genius of that film. Because you've got it in what he will eventually know about Michael Jackson, but also what he's going to find out about his father.
Seeing Jennifer Lawrence in Winter's Bone, it was just one of those things where you thought, okay, I'm just gonna surrender to Jennifer Lawrence because she's obviously the next big thing. She has so much authority. She's so commanding. She's so believable.
I'll find him.
Girl, I've been looking.
I said I'll find him.
She has to skin a squirrel, and she learns how to skin a squirrel. It's just one of those sort of star-making performances where you know that you are going to be seeing this person over and over and over and over again.
You really get a sense that the weight of the world is on the shoulders of this young girl. It's a film that would be very hard for a new actress to pull off, but Jennifer Lawrence does it flawlessly.
It's very brutal. It's not a movie for everybody, but I think that another reason why it really works is not only the performance by Jennifer Lawrence, but also the direction by Deborah Granick. Like, she's not shying away from how harrowing and how upsetting this is. She's leaning into it, and it's going to affect you.
You know, there's a danger in a movie like this that the film is going to condescend to the characters or the real people that the characters are based on. And one of the miracles of Winter's Bone is that it doesn't do that. It takes its characters very, very seriously.
For costuming this film, Deborah Granick did something quite unusual. She asked locals from the community to donate their clothing, and then she outfitted her characters in those clothes from the community.
A fascinating narrative thread throughout the film is the old ways of the Ozarks. You see a real divide between men and women, for instance. A very interesting point in the movie is that Jennifer Lawrence essentially cannot interact with a lot of the men. She has to work very hard through this maze of women to get anywhere near a man just to find out about her own father.
He knows what you won't ask and he don't want to hear it. And that's it? He ain't gonna say nothing to me? If you're listening, child, you got your answer.
here are people who are doing their very best and they can't even make even the barest of ends meet. Neighbors are looking out for neighbors, but parents aren't looking out for their children. Like it's a very complicated situation, and I think Deborah Gronick never condescends to her characters, and she never looks down to them, and I think that's what makes the movie work.
Certified Copy is Abbas Kiarostami's first fiction film made outside of Iran. He'd spent decades contributing, I guess, to the world's understanding of Iran for those who followed world cinema.
Certified Copy can be a difficult film to parse through. It's definitely working with some confusing, sometimes surrealist elements.
It's just these two people, they're clearly romantically interested in each other. They only have like a limited amount of time together to get to know each other.
Do they know each other from before? Do they not? It seems like they kind of do, but at the same time, there's a great distance between them as well.
With every single movie that he makes, he's constantly getting you to question, what am I actually looking at? What am I really seeing? He forces you to think about the actual production of the movie, the fact that you're watching a movie, period. And he does so here by introducing this second dynamic.
There's this turning point in Certified Copy. It's hard to put your finger on, but it is there. It's a moment where accidentally the man has been mistaken by someone working in a cafe as Juliette Binoche's husband, and she just goes along with it.
Un buon marito, però. Cos'è? Un buon marito, però. E come fa a saperlo? Si vede.
And it's that turning point where all of a sudden they start acting like a married couple, and you question whether you really know this story or not. Are they faking the first couple of acts of the film and this is really a divorced couple coming together again? Or are they now pretending to be married and fighting and having these quarrels about their children that are not supposed to exist?
Look who's talking about presents. When was the last time the three of us had breakfast together? When? When?
What he's doing is getting you to question the performance. And he's also getting you to think about what marriage or what relationships really consist of.
I love that there's all these question marks because to me, that's like the beauty of the movie is, you know, we don't always need to have the answer to what a film is trying to tell us. And I think this is one of those movies that it's just a vibe and you just watch it and you just enjoy it. There's two great performances and it's also beautiful Italy. So, I mean, you can't really go wrong there.
Uncle Boonmee Who Can Recall His Past Lives was the unlikely hero of 2010. This is a year where we had films from Christopher Nolan, from David Fincher, from Darren Aronofsky, and yet it's Apichatpong Veerasakul who really stole the spotlight in 2010. Uncle Boonmee Who Can Recall His Past Lives put Thai filmmaking on the map. It's not just the film that won the Palme d'Or in 2010, it found itself a place on a lot of top 10s of the year.
There's a great way to describe Uncle Boonmee as an incredibly pretentious film about people sitting around discussing the end of the world without actually opening their mouths. But I prefer to say that this is the fun one where a man dies of kidney failure surrounded by monkey ghosts. It's kind of a comedy. I mean, it is this very, very sweet, very, very still study of the end of a person's life and how in this narrative, all the people who've left him come back. In the first few minutes, there's something we don't understand, a spirit with glowing red eyes, watching back at us, looking at the camera.
มึงเป็นไผบุญทรง
It takes a very long time before the movie gets around to telling you, no, he's cool, it's fine, it's just somebody we know, and he's gonna be joining us for a while.
บุญทรงลูกแม่แม่นบ่
แม่
It's just about being open to the possibility that not only is death not the end, but it's not even the middle. There's stuff going on in this film that we have a sort of glancing relationship to, and it's just about soaking the atmosphere up and experiencing it with the character who is going away, but he's getting the best possible send-off.
2010 had some great westerns which explored especially women's place in the West. Kelly Reichardt loves the settler history of Oregon and trying to understand exactly the conflicts, what went wrong, what went right. I think a lot of the terrible misdeeds interest her, and specifically with Meek's Cutoff, she's playing on a true story of a man who led a wagon train astray.
Kelly Reichardt chose to film in the Academy ratio of 1:37, which is very different than what other filmmakers were doing in 2010. They were using huge widescreen vistas. And it's interesting because Reichardt also chooses to use 16mm. It's like she's limiting her scope and really demonstrating through the film technique that her characters' lives are limited, that their journey has a limited value.
We're sort of brought into this world through the point of view of the wives, and the sort of leader of the wives being Michelle Williams' character. But when men are talking and making decisions, we start to see it from a distance because the wives aren't involved in that decision-making process and where to go on this wagon train. They're clearly lost. They've been following this man, Stephen Meek, and basically you're dropped into the point of the story where, like, it's already too late. Like, these people are doomed.
None of them have a better idea of where to go, except for Michelle Williams' character, who knows that she can collaborate with the Indigenous man and have the best chance for survival.
This sort of growing realization that maybe these women are more capable comes to a head in the climax when Emily finally pulls a gun on Stephen Meek.
You people got no idea what you are dealing with here.
Well, neither do you, Mr. Meek. You proved that amply by now.
One thing Kelly Reichardt says again and again in her films is that the settlers' treatment of indigenous people was really against their own interests. They don't understand that these people understood the land. Oregon was their home, and they really could figure it out a lot better. So she really sees these characters, both in the past and in the present day, as really holding on to kind of the truth of Oregon. True Grit was a real risk for the Coen brothers because they were adapting a novel that already had a classic film based on it.
The title True Grit itself was synonymous with John Wayne in the fact that he won his first and only Oscar for playing the alcoholic but deep down decent lawman by the name of Rooster Cogburn. But the Coen brothers actually went back to Charles Portis's original novel. Portis was known for his extremely eccentric and effective use of language, which in itself became a kind of a poetry, and it's all over the way the characters speak in True Grit.
All I've heard out of you so far is talk. I know you can drink whiskey and snore and spit and wallow in filth and bemoan your station. The rest has been braggadocio. They told me you had grit, and that is why I came to you. I'm not paying for talk. I can get all the talk I need and more at the Monarch boarding house.
Maddie Ross in the book, as well as in the Coen brothers' True Grit, is spunky. She really plays by her own rules. She's defiant, and that didn't really come up in the original film. The Coen brothers refused to put their characters in stereotypical cowboy hats. They would have been ahistorical to the time period of this film, and so what we're seeing by 2010 is this kind of veracity and this authenticity instilled into the Western in the same way that Kelly Reichardt did with Meek's Cutoff.
It wasn't the first time that the Coen brothers had made a Western, but they really did a beautiful, traditional Western. But it didn't lack any of the humor that their previous films had, and it's raw in its violence, which is very much connected to Westerns, and also the revenge theme that is often in Westerns.
What you want is to have him caught and punished.
I want him to know that he's being punished for killing my father.
The Coens have made movies that are way more famous than True Grit, like Fargo and The Big Lebowski are kind of essential viewing, and No Country for Old Men as well, but it's actually the film of theirs that made the most money, at least in terms of raw box office totals, was nominated for 10 Oscars and a kind of crowd-pleasing success. But even when the Coens are in, as I say, that kind of emotional mode, those big feelings, they remain true to themselves. They don't lose their edge. And while I think True Grit is a movie of real deep severity and deep sincerity, it's not sentimental. And it's actually, I think, underrated within their body of work.
2010 was allowing such a wide variety of different stories that in an unexpected twist, the biggest Canadian story came from an American studio and a British director.
We started kind of like pre-production like kind of 2 years ago. It's been like a 2-year effort basically.
Edgar Wright was completely intimidated by shooting in another country. This was his first film outside of the UK, and he was very worried about portraying Toronto correctly. So he actually lived in Toronto for over a year before the film began shooting.
Edgar did 10 times as much work as I did on the film. It was kind of, whenever I felt like complaining about being tired, I would look at him and feel like, oh my God, if that guy can do it, I have to try it too.
So in 2010, I worked at a very cool video store known as Suspect Video. You know, those were the years where I was getting paid minimum wage, but I was working at a cool video store, kind of like High Fidelity with John Cusack, where we talked movies all the time. And we all knew about Scott Pilgrim because it was written and created by Brian Lee O'Malley, who used to work at The Beguiling, which was 2 stores down. And then Scott Pilgrim was being filmed right in front of us. The Pizza, right there, that's my Pizza. That's where I got my lunch. The Sonic Boom, that's no longer there. Right beside, across the street from Pizza. Like, this movie almost was about us. Edgar really got himself into Toronto and absorbed Toronto like no other filmmaker outside of Toronto would.
Come to the first round of this Battle of the Bands thing.
You have a band?
Yeah, we're terrible. Please come.
Sure.
Oh, wait. Can I get your number? Wow, girl number.
I think it's one of the few films in cinema history that really understands how you bring manga influence into the cinematic realm in a really authentic and innovative way. Like, you feel like you are seeing a comic book come to life in ways that a lot of films that try to incorporate comic book influences fail miserably.
Everybody has these comic onomatopoeias around them.
That's for me.
Everything is shifting and moving like a video game. There's sound effects. His dream girl literally shows up in his dreams. It's this kind of silly world that takes a while to get used to, but once you're in it, it's very exciting.
That time with Lisa?
That was a misunderstanding.
That time with Holly?
That wasn't what it looked like.
That time you dumped Kim?
Okay, me and Kim are all good now, all right?
2010 was a great year for entertainment at the movies. Big box offices, big directors turning out stuff that's mostly just fun. You really have to look closer for a lot of these films to understand the kind of impact they had. But at the same time, big entertainment often brings out new actors, new talent, exciting new directors, and I think that really matters.